All right, music fans, here we are. We're in week 11 of our course this semester, and we are going to be discussing this week really avant-garde music, starting with 12-tone technique. Actually, we're going to get to 12-tone technique via atonality. Atonality, as you remember, is the absence of tonality. Now, there are a lot of pieces of music that we listen to that we might consider to be atonal, which are not atonal. Atonal just does not mean a piece of music that's all over the place. A lot of times we will actually label pieces of music that tend to really have no obvious key center atonal, and they're not atonal at all. Atonal is the complete absence of tonality. Now, one thing about atonal music is that it's very easy for a composer to exhaust compositional possibilities rapidly, just because there's little organizing factors when it comes to atonality. So a lot of composers, in order to get longevity out of their compositions, will revert to the addition of text, which gives them something to organize their ideas around, actually something to extend the life of the atonal composition. Now, Schoenberg is going to be the person who we are going to look at the most this week because of his development of 12-tone technique, taking this idea of atonality, in that there is no tonal sort of hierarchy that is present in atonality, obviously, because it's the absence of tonality. But then moving toward the 12-tone technique, which is using all 12 notes in what we consider to be in Western music to be the 12 notes of an octave. We obviously know that there are notes in between all these different 12 notes. We have microtones and semitones and quarter tones and things like that. So there are more tones available to us, but we tend to keep everything nicely compartmentalized into 12 pitches. But what Schoenberg did is he found or devised a technique of organizing all 12 notes so that no one note would assert dominance over any other note. So not having that tonal hierarchy or having any hierarchy whatsoever in reference to pitch. And so with the development of 12-tone technique, we kind of have another organizing element to help provide longevity in composition. Now, we're going to look at Schoenberg, but we're also going to look at two other composers that were grouped with Schoenberg, that were his students, Alban Berg and Anton Webern. Now, Webern was a composer who most of his compositions are quite brief, to be honest. They're very short, they're very concise, but they are packed full of information, and there is no added element. He poured over his compositions in order to make sure that they were completely just perfect, almost in every way. And so Webern's compositions are different from Schoenberg and Berg. Berg's most influential work is his opera Wozzeck, which is just a wonderful work, and we'll listen to that one as well on Friday. Now, this week there will be no sort of reading content online. I do want you guys to read what is in the text. What I do want you to do in place of actually reading the text, of actually reading information that would be on the blog, is I want you to listen to some of the music examples that I'm going to put up via YouTube. Because I want you to get this in your ear, and I want you to approach all this stuff with a completely open mind. We tend to think of 12-tone technique and of Sprechstimme and all these different elements of serialism, which we'll get into, to be quite foreign, and we tend to kind of just shy away from that because it does kind of have this harsh sound to it. It sounds like just a string of dissonance from beginning to end. So I want you to think about what we talked with Debussy last week about how we can what we were listening for in Debussy and Nuages, and trying to find out a way to get us from beginning to end. So we're listening to music differently than just trying to find melody, than trying to find clear harmonic progression, and listening to it for color, listening to it for timbre, listening to it for different movements in rhythm. So trying to find other things to latch onto other than melody. And that's going to be really different because that's not how we are trained. We are trained from the beginning of our music studies that melody does this, melody is built around this, chords do this, and that's really not what it's about. It's about how intervals are reacting. It's about how music is flowing through time. It's about how tones are flowing through time, and it's about how these tones sound when you put them together. Timbre, for instance. Okay, so I want you to read, make sure that you know the text very well, because it's going to help in our discussion. We're going to talk about 12-tone technique in depth. We cannot get away from the from music theory in this instance. So if you need to kind of take out your theory text and brush up on that, please do so, because we will have to talk about that. So make sure you read, and make sure you listen to these music examples as well. I'll see you Wednesday.